Welcome to Move, metabolic optimization via exercise. This isn't just about workouts. It's about moving your body, moving your habits, and moving your life forward. Each episode builds consistency, strength, and resilience step by step. I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and together we're writing the story of health, transformation, and limitless living. This is Move. Let's get started. All right, so hopefully you were hearing me as I was talking. A little hiccup there, but thank you for coming through. Thank you for hanging in and being with us. So the Move campaign. If you've been with us, you know that a big component of the Health Action Plan has to do with movement. So walking, strength training is what we've been doing. Several other aspects of movement, but one of the best ways of improving our metabolism, of getting our insulin resistance down and getting our body more insulin sensitive is with Move. And so we're excited about that. We're excited about that series so far right now. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at. Let me do a quick check-in with you so that we can talk about where I am. Whenever we do a check-in, we want to talk about three different things: how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And here at 76 hours actually, let's talk about that. Here we go. All right. So when we talk about our evaluation and when we're looking at improving things, we want to make sure that we have a system to make sure that we're getting the benefits. We're not causing any adverse effects from whatever we're doing, right? Whatever you're doing, if you want to have a way of evaluating. And our domains of health, remember we walked through that, there are 8 domains of health, but the 3 most important ones where people tend to have their struggles, it has to do with how they're feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. We'll talk here in just a little while as we make the point that fasting is not simply not eating, right? There are lots of other things that go on. But physically, this is where people will tend to talk about how they may have feeling like they're hitting a wall, or they're fatigued, or they're losing energy. I am, at this point, not feeling any of that. I am pretty energetic. All right. I've been busy today doing taking care of some personal things, but feeling energetic. Often, if I am not well rested, then I can feel when I'm getting into the fast, I can feel that more in my body. Whether that's feeling like I'm lightheaded or dizzy, or feeling palpitations. Right now, I'm not feeling any of those because I'm well rested, and also because I am hydrating. Right, so a big component of fasting has to do with hydration, and so right now I'm not feeling any of those symptoms. Take a sip there. When you're dehydrated, your body has to compensate for that. And often it will compensate by increasing the heart rate. And so people feel that as though their heart is racing, skipping a beat, and those types of things, okay? And then, of course, the thought process, mentation. As you think about your body, you can imagine there were times where you were fatigued. And when you were fatigued, you didn't think as clearly as you did at other times. And that's what happens when we are not, when we're not well rested. We can have kind of mental fogginess. The other thing that can happen is if we're dehydrated or we have electrolyte imbalance, then that will show up also in our thought process. So people say, I feel foggy headed. I feel as though I'm in a bubble. I'm not, my thinking is not as sharp as it usually is. And that has to do sometimes with how we're preparing for the fast and how we're moving through the fast. And then, of course, emotions. And as we said before, fasting is not just a not eating. There are lots of emotions that are involved with that, because we, I'm putting my hands up, we often use food as a buffer for lots of different things in our lives. And so when we're fasting, we're actually sitting in the space without food, and so now we have to deal with life as it were on life's terms, and that can throw a wrench into our day if we're not prepared for this and if we're not aware of some of the things that will push our buttons. Okay, so fasting, so physically, mentally, and emotionally, what's going on with us in that space. Now let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at what's going on with my blood sugars. And here is this is a G7, and you'll see there it says that my blood sugar is 93 right now. And if I put my finger over the last 24 hours, this graph that you're looking down here, and kind of scroll through, there we go. And you can see what my numbers have been running. Oh, let's go back. Yeah, so right in this area, you can see what my numbers have been running over the course of the last 24 hours. If you did not see what I ate, as my meal when I started the fast, you want to go back and you want to watch that. And then I want you to come back and look at the numbers that you're seeing here. Because when we are fasting, the last meal that we eat has a profound impact on what happens to the blood sugars during the fast, okay? So make sure you go back and watch that. And then now let's go over and let's take a look. And this is my Freestyle Libre. This is a Libre 3 Plus. And you see right now it says that my blood sugar is 72. And then just like we did with the Dexcom, I can put my finger and just kind of run it through, and you'll see there we're in the 80s, 90s, 80s, 90s, 80s, 90s, just kind of straddling in the 80s and 90s, and then dropping down. And there was a point here where we actually dropped below 670 earlier today, and then just right there was a 69, right there, 69, and then kind of hanging out again in the 70s, okay? What I like about this is if I go over, I can actually look at some different reports, and this is my time in range, and we're looking at these numbers right here. So 97% in range, and you'll see there are some lows, so 3% of lows, and that tends to happen when I am fasting, okay? So if I look at the 14-day, you'll see 94%, then the 30 days, and of course the 90 days, 87% in range, and then 19 or 13% that are lows, and that once again happens when I am fasting. And then getting out of this report, I love this one because I can look at what's going on at different times of the day and make decisions about how I'm going to eat or what activities I do based on what my blood sugars are. And so I love this report. Going to my 90 days, see on this line here, this is my average for the last 90 days. Okay, I do want to go back to the Dexcom. Let's see, let's get back here. I do want to go back to the Dexcom and look at this report, because this says, and let's go to the 90 day, because that's the one that most people are interested in. So it says that my 90-day average is 115. my glucose management indicator, that second number that you see there, 6.1, if I were to get an A1C, that's what I would anticipate that my A1C would be. It would be at least around that number. Okay, there's a calculated number, and that's why it's called the glucose management indicator and not the A1C. But that's what I would anticipate that my A1C would be. Several months ago, we actually did a show where we walked through my personal labs as I was getting ready to go to see my physician, talk about what those labs were: CMP, CBC, my microalbumin, my thyroid, my testosterone levels, my C-peptide and insulin levels as well. So that would be a good one if you are wondering, well, what labs should I be looking at? What should I have my doctor to look at? What should I be tracking? Those are good labs that you want to be tracking as well. And then now let's go ahead and let's get over and let's take a look at this is my Keto Mojo and my contour meter. Let's see what that shows. And for this, let's go ahead and get over here. And I need to get my container. And I need a brown strip for glucose. I need a blue strip for ketones. I need a strip for my contour right here. And then I need these in my Lancets. Let me get this off here for a minute. And okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to grab a strip. This is for the contour. And you guys heard that alarm going off there, off screen. This is my contour. Here is the strip for my glucose for my Keto Mojo. And of course, let's go from the other side. Okay, there we go. Let's get that in here. And if you watched this yesterday, you saw that we had to make a change to the monitor. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up this strip as well. This is the one for ketones. So if you're out there, go ahead and drop in what do you think my ketones are going to be. And then here I am. I'm going to just take a finger. Here's my Lancet. And ow, ow, ow. Hopefully that gives us a good drop. Not as brisk as we thought, but that's okay. That'll be enough. And let's get that started. Let's go ahead and milk that just a little bit more to get this one going. And while those are running, I'm going to actually milk this some more because it looks like it's about to dry up. So 82 for the Keto Mojo, 79 for the contour. And then, of course, when we go back here, you'll see that my Dexcom right now says that I'm 90. Is that 91? Okay. And so I want to get this strip out. We're going to insert the strip for ketones. All right, here we are. Get that in. And let's just make sure that we don't have to do another finger stick. Let's go ahead and get that one going. Okay. And 8, 7, 6. Let me get this one off the screen. 2 and 1, and my ketones are 0.5. So 0.5 are what my ketones are. So when we talk about ketones, ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. So people who are fasting with the intention of being ketosis, people who are doing fasting mimicking diets, people who are in ketogenic diets, we want ketones that are 0.5 or higher, right? And then above 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. So we're in the nutritional ketosis phase right now. Let me go ahead. I want to pull up here's my Keto Mojo, and we're going to try to see if we can pull that over into our app. And looks like it doesn't want to, don't close the app, so I won't close it. And it's syncing, okay? So it's syncing right now. All right, so while that's working, let's go ahead and let's say hello to some of our community members. Actually, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's hop over and let's get into our discussion. We'll come back and we will give a shout out here in just a little while, and let this continue running, and we'll pull all of that in. Okay. So we're talking about fasting, and let me pull one thing up here really quickly. So we're talking about fasting, and of course, the benefits of fasting is what we're looking for. So if you've been fasting, you've been thinking about fasting, this is a great place for you to be. Let's go ahead and let's have that conversation. Right. Where did it go? All right. I thought I had it, y'all. So give me just a second. There we go. All right, so fasting. The question that most people ask, and it is a very good question, is why fast? The very first thing, right? So if you are going to learn something new, if you're going to use a new tool, the first question is what does the tool, what problem does the tool solve? Does it make things easier? Does it make me more efficient? Is there something that is wrong that the tool is fixing, right? So that's the idea. And so let's kind of walk through that a little bit. So fasting is an amazing way of improving our dysfunctional metabolism. So fasting is the tool, and we're using it to fix something, and what we're fixing is dysfunctional metabolism. What does that mean? Well, metabolism has to do with how our body transfers the food that we eat into the energy that we need. And we won't go through that entire process. We'll do more of that kind of discussion at a different time. But needless to say that when you put something in your mouth and you're eating, whatever you put in your mouth, the body breaks it down and ultimately sends it off to be processed to be used in the body for something. And everybody's aware of the macronutrients, right? So we talk about protein, we talk about carbs, and we talk about fat. Those are the three big ones. And then there are micronutrients, there are vitamins, there are minerals. All those things are part of the process. So when you're eating, the purpose of eating, by the way, the main purpose of eating is for nutrition. It gives the body the things it needs for it to move into energy so that we can keep functioning. So our brain and our heart and our lung and all those different components, all those different organs can function the way they should function. Now, imagine a process that's going on as we're moving through taking the food and ultimately getting energy for the body. Along that process, there are lots of different things that happen. And at any rate, if there is something that interrupts it, disrupts it, causes an abnormal function of it, it's just like an assembly line, then the end product is flawed. And in our bodies, the end product is this concept of a normal metabolism. And when that's dysfunctional, then we have issues that show up, and they show up in lots of ways, but the way that we see them has to do with a lot of the chronic diseases that we suffer from. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, obesity, prediabetes, diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now everybody's talking about type 3 diabetes or dementia, Alzheimer's disease. Those are consequences of dysfunctional metabolism. And so we're using fasting as the tool that helps us to fix that problem. So if you're wondering why fast in this space, in the health space, right now, we're talking about metabolism, and fasting is the way to do that. Now, let me hasten to say that fasting doesn't just fix that aspect of our health. There are lots of other things that it will fix as well, that it helps us to manage. But in this space right now, we're talking about its ability to right our dysfunctional metabolism. And so if you're going to use the tool, we want to know, how does the tool work? Is it giving me the benefit that I think I should get? And what are the best practices for using the tool? And that's what we're doing right now, talking about fasting as that amazing tool to help us right the metabolism. So what does that mean for us, and how do we use it, right? So fasting review. What do we need to know, right? These are the need to know things. So let's walk through that. So whenever I talk about fasting, I discuss fasting in three major ways. How do we prepare for the fast? How do we successfully get through the fast? And then how do we break the fast? Okay, so we'll talk about each of those components, about how do we do. So how do we get ready? And you heard me say before that fasting is not just about not eating. So why do we prepare? Because, honestly speaking, if you want to fast, just stop eating. Done. Okay? The issue is that is not a sustainable way of doing it. Just one day randomly, I'm not going to eat today. Because there are other metabolic things that are going on, and we're not looking to fast on a one episode basis, because what we're looking for is, how do we continually improve our health with the tool that we're using? It's kind of like getting a hammer, right? So I don't go buy a hammer, use it, and then throw it away. In fact, in my garage right now, I probably have, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 different types of hammer, or different hammers, right? Different types. I've got a regular hammer, I got a ball peen hammer, I got a mallet, I've got, right? So lots of different hammers for different things. But I have hammers, and I don't throw them away when I'm done with them, because I want them to be around so I can use them long term. So fasting, if we're going to use fasting, we want to structure it in such a way that we can pull it out whenever we need it to fix whatever we need fixed. Okay? So that's the idea. So fasting, not just not eating. And so we prepare because we want to know what are the best ways of using fasting. Okay? All right. So let's go back here. So that's what we're doing, and we are saying, hey, what do we need to do to be successful? So why prepare? Because preparation is key. How you prepare for the fast determines ultimately the success of the fast. And as I did my check-in earlier, I talked about how I was feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. We're going to spend some time talking about the first two, physically and mentally, but all of the other ones are important as well. We're going to spend some particular time here because this is where, if we're not careful, it can derail all the others downstream. So physically, first of all, let's talk about food. Because fasting is the voluntary abstinence of food, we want to know, how does the food that we eat when we're not fasting affect us during the fast? Because during the fast itself, guess what? We're not eating anything. We're not putting anything in. Theoretically, not an issue. But when we're not fasting, we eat out there. Okay? And so what happens there in our eating window has a tremendous effect in our fasting as well. So we want to make sure that we understand that. Now, a point that I want to make here, and you heard me say out there and in here and fasting window and non-fasting window, but to be honest, what needs to happen is we actually really just need to think of our eating and our fasting as a cycle. It's not that, oh, I'm doing bad now in my eating, so let me go fast to fix it. Or, my goodness, I've been fasting for so long, let me go reward myself now by eating. Right? Those are disjointed. But fasting and eating simply are cycles within the same circle. And how we eat in our eating window affects how we fast, and how we fast affects our eating window. So it is a loop. And we want that loop to be as smooth as possible. So let's start with what's going on when we are eating. When we're eating, the concept that I want you to get is that you should be thinking in terms of what we call balanced bites. Balanced bites is a concept. It is a framework. It is a guardrail. It is the blueprint for how we think about food as we're thinking about eating. And yes, you should have a way of thinking about food. It's not a diet. It's not a meal plan. It's not a challenge. It's not we're going to do this for this while. It is your thought process about food in general. Because how we eat, the types of things that we eat will come into fasting. Because when we stop eating, you know what the body's using during that time? Yeah, it's using the stuff that we ate before. And if we've done a good job of being balanced in our meals, then we have all the nutrients, all the vitamins, we have all the hydration that we need coming into the fast. If we don't do that, then we can be deficient in electrolytes, in minerals, in vitamins, in hydration. And because of that, it has a profound effect on how we feel getting through the fast. And when we have a challenge in how we feel, then we say to ourselves, well, fasting doesn't work. Well, it's not that fasting doesn't work, it's that the preparation for coming into the fast, specifically now we're talking about food, the things that we ate out there, or things that we ate in our eating window did not support our fast. So making sure that you are eating a balanced meal. And people say, well, what is a balanced meal? Well, balanced meal. So balanced bites. What is the concept of balanced bites? We're talking about whole foods first, minimize processing foods, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, leaning more towards the non-starchy vegetables, portion controlled, and tasty and flavorful. Now I want you to look through that list and notice there is no list of foods to eat or foods not to eat. That's not the idea. And the very first one where it says whole foods, sometimes when I talk to people, they'll say to me, you said only eat whole foods. No, that's not what that line says. It says whole foods first. That means that as you're thinking about the things you're going to eat, there are things that are on your menu. There are things that are on the table. When you go to a function, you go to a family reunion, it's a holiday. There are things on that table that are not whole foods. Yes, there are things on the table that are processed. There are things on the table that have sugar. But the very first line in Balanced Bite says whole foods first. So as you're thinking about what I'm going to create for my plate, the first thing you should be thinking about is, okay, well, how do I get some whole foods onto this plate? Because often what will happen is we'll go to the processed, highly sugary stuff, and we eat that, and our appetite gets stimulated, so we end up eating more. Or we never get to the whole foods because we're spending all of our time down at the other end of the table. Right, so whole foods first. So that's the concept of eating in our eating window. Because if you follow that idea, that thought process, the foods that you eat will be balanced. And so you'll get everything that you need as you move into the fast. Okay, does that make sense to you? Awesome. So that's the first thing, the way we eat in our non-fasting window. Number 2 is our rest. If you are not well rested, fasting does not go well, typically. Because fasting is saying, okay, I am not going to I'm voluntarily not taking any food in. Now, many of us have gotten so used to the way our body feels when we're eating that when it changes during the fasting window, that causes us problems. Not because there's a fasting problem, but we've gotten so used to the cues. For example, when the stomach is growling, most of us, hands up, most of us think we're hungry. Yes? But growling stomach doesn't mean hunger, it just means empty. We always talk about how we feel because our energy levels are dipping. Well, we're used to having such high blood sugars that when the blood sugars come into the normal range, or we're used to having such fluctuations that when we're fasting and we're not constantly putting in energy, right, to get those big spikes and fluctuations in blood sugars, then we feel that as though the energy is going down. Now, let me put a pin right here and let me make a comment. As I'm talking about fluctuations in blood sugars or high spikes in blood sugars, this does not mean that I'm only talking to diabetics. People who have diabetes, obviously, they see the spikes much bigger. But people who are not diabetic, just the average person who doesn't have any diabetes at all, they also have fluctuations in their blood sugars. And the body fixes it by producing insulin to keep the blood sugar level normal. Which is great, because that's what we want insulin to do. That's its job. The problem comes in is that every time there's the fluctuation, the amount of insulin that your body has to produce to keep the number normal causes downstream issues. Like it stimulates the appetite, it causes obesity, it causes fatty liver, right? So there are all these things that happen. The blood sugar is fine. You go to your doctor and the doctor says, hey, you don't have to worry because you are not diabetic. In fact, you're not pre-diabetic. Your A1C is great. My question to you, though, is how did the body keep the A1C normal? How is it keeping the blood sugar normal despite all of the things that we tend to eat? Right? Because remember, sugary foods, guess what they do? They cause spikes in blood sugar. And when that happens, insulin has to come out. Okay, so energy. So making sure that we're eating well in our eating window. Number 2, making sure that we're well rested so that we don't have those fluctuations. Because if we're not well rested, we'll feel those changes in hormones and change in energy source. We'll feel that more profoundly. So we talked about the. Go back over here. Here we go. So we talked about physical, and then now let's deal with mental. So because many of us use food as buffers, we have to have a particular mindset as we move into fasting. Otherwise, the things that normally push us in our lives, they don't go away, by the way. They're there. The same things that will pull at you, will tug at you to make you go get something to eat, the same things are still in your environment. And if you don't understand what those are and understand how they affect you, you get into the fast and they happen just like they normally happen, and your first thought is to reach for food because we've not prepared here. And when I say prepare here, I don't mean just sitting in the room, okay, I'm going to eat, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to eat. That's not what I'm talking about. Having tools in place so that you deal with the things that do come up. What are your stress management tools? What are your relational tools when something happens within a relationship? What are your tools that help you deal with procrastination? What are the other things that you have at your disposal that you have cultivated, that you've been practicing, that are going to help you get through the fast? Right, so we've learned several, the COPE model, the HEAT model, all of those things, being present, mental mastery. That's what I'm talking about. The things that we've put in place that helps us to deal with our emotions, which is one of the other pillars, by the way, or one of the domains, helps us deal with all of those. And also to understand that fasting is not a punishment. Fasting, we're not fasting because we've been bad. Fasting is not our it's not our penance. Like the hammer that I'm using to put the nail in the wall, I'm not being punished. And my punishment is using the hammer. I have something I'm fixing, and I need to go use the hammer to do that. So understanding, wrapping our mind around the idea of fasting is very important, right? So preparing physically and then preparing mentally. Two very important things that we want to do. And so there's lots more that we can talk about in terms of preparation, but I want to hop over and I want to go ahead and start talking about, well, let me do this. Let me give you some takeaways. Here we go. Let's do this. Let's do some takeaways. These are some takeaways that I want you to get from this idea of fast or preparation for the fast. Okay. Number one is that fasting is key. Preparation is key for fasting. Preparation is key. We prepare mentally and physically. We get rest. We eat nutrient-dense meals when we're in our eating window. And one of the things that we didn't talk about, but we get into community. The Limitless Living community is an amazing community for this process because we do this on a routine basis, regular basis, every week. We're coming through and we're fasting together. In your area, create a community. You're working on it. This is a health initiative, by the way. Right? Say to the folks on your job, say your family, at your church, in your community center, in your neighborhood. Hey, I want to do something for our health. Right? Because we do walks every time. We do walks, we do cooking, we do cooking classes, we do all kinds of things. Say, hey, I've got an idea. Let's use fasting. It's a great tool. Let's do it together. So get in community, and when you get in community, you will have better success. Okay? So that's how we do. We prepare for the fast. How we get through the fast successfully, let's walk through that now. And we're going to talk about fasting in lots of different ways, but we're going to spend time talking about fasting in those first 24 hours. 24 to 30 hours, really. And one of the first concepts is this. When you first stop eating, that is not called fasting. It's called the postprandial phase. It is simply the time where you're not putting anything in initially after you finish. You've just finished eating, and those several hours are called the postprandial phase. It's kind of like you go into the grocery store and you buy food or buy supplies, whatever it is, paper and toilet paper and bathroom and deodorant and toothpaste and toothbrushes and whatever it is, you bought it, and now you've come home and now you're putting it in the places it needs to go. You're putting some in the pantry, you're putting some in the bathroom, you've got some towels that you bought that you're going to wash, and you're going to put it in the where you keep your towels. You may have bought some garbage bags, and now you're going to put those where they need to go. So what you're doing is you're taking all the stuff you bought and you're just distributing in them, sending them where they need to be, where you store them. And that's what the body's doing in the postprandial period. It is simply taking the food that you've eaten, it's breaking it down into its components, and it's shuttling it away to the places it needs to go. Postprandial period. And during this period, because you've just eaten the food, blood sugars can be elevated, right? Because typically when we eat, what do we eat? We eat protein, but we also have carbs. And so as the body's processing those carbs, those blood sugars are elevated. And so the body's insulin level is elevated as well. This is not just for diabetics, by the way. This happens in every person on the planet. It's a postprandial period. The next period that we talk about, and we're going to continue to walk through fasting, is the early fasting stage. And in this period, our insulin levels are starting to decrease, and glucagon is starting to go up. Remember, insulin and glucagon are opposite hormones. When insulin is high, because we've just finished eating, then glucagon is low. When the blood sugars start going down because the food is now is not in the blood anymore, then the insulin goes down and then glucagon starts going up. So our bodies now, We've taken the food that we ate, we broke it down, we've put it into its constituent places, and now we're going back and we're taking that out. It's kind of like coming from the grocery store and you put everything up where it needs to be, and then now you need to cook dinner. So what you're going to go do, you're going to go back out, and you're going to grab the stuff, and you're going to start eating it or start cooking it, right? Early fasting stage. And the next stage, so that was up to 12 hours. So 12 hours and beyond, so 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning to using fat. The body has taken the blood sugar and used it for energy, used it for whatever it needed. It's going to the liver and it says, hey, I put some stuff in there. Can I get it back? And the liver is giving it up, right? So once again, we depleted what's in the blood. We're now taking stuff out of the liver, and the liver's getting empty. It's kind of like you got the food from the grocery store, you brought it home, you put it up in the pantry and in the refrigerator and the freezer, you took it out and you cooked it. There's still some in the pantry, right, because you didn't use it all up. You cooked it, you ate some, and you put some in the refrigerator. So now you've eaten up what you're going to eat. The stuff in the refrigerator, you go back and you eat that until that's done, and then you go back to the pantry to cook more stuff. Right, just those different components or compartments. So 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning. And so now we're looking to say, okay, we've used up the stuff that's in the refrigerator. Let's go back to the pantry, the fat cells, and let's pull some stuff out of there and use it. Does it make sense? Okay, I hope you're following along with that. So early fasting stage. And then we get to ketosis. So ketosis is beginning now, right? So we've moved from just, hey, we need to get some fat. So now our body is in the process of using the stored energy in the pantry, in our fat cells. It's breaking it down. It's creating another source of energy. It's kind of like that hybrid car. When the gas runs out, it switches over to burning or using the battery. And so now our bodies have used up the blood sugar, what's in the blood. It's used up the stuff that's in the liver, glycogen, and now it's gone to the fat cells and said, hey, give me fats, give me the fats, and then it's breaking that down and it's creating another energy source called ketones, right? Ketones are a stable source of energy. They don't fluctuate as much as blood sugars. They're cleaner. And ketones have a lot of downstream effect on not just our body, our physiology, but also on our hormones, our thought process, right? For instance, let's jump to thought process for a minute. So when ketones are being formed, the ketones have the ability to improve our mentation because the brain likes to use ketones for energy. So we're providing the brain with a source of energy that it readily accepts. When we're fasting, our body produces something called brain-derived natriuretic factor, BDNF, which is like miracle grow for the brain. So people are making connections and having thoughts during fasting that they would not normally have. They're making, if you want to get a problem solved, start fasting. Right? Those synapses will fire and give you tremendous benefit. So ketosis, 18 to 24 hour period, and then we get into our fat adaptation. So fat adaptation means that our body is now fully coupled to using energy from ketones, and so fat continues to be burned. So if you're wondering what's going on in my body during fasting, this is it right here. It's a rule. It is the way things work. And during the process of going through this, there are several things that will happen. The body itself will help you get through the fast, because as you get past those first 6 to 12 hours, and your body now is looking and beginning burning or creating ketones as you get into the ketosis, those ketones help you from being hungry. They decrease hunger. Insulin levels have dropped. And so our appetite is not as stimulated. So the body is doing things to help you get through the process. Because it likes this. It wants this. So it is not a tug of war between what you want and what the body wants. The body wants to be healthy. And so it is in the process of doing those things to help you be healthy. And the hormones, as they begin to coordinate with each other. Remember, insulin was high, and now the blood sugars have gone down, so insulin goes down. When it goes down, glucagon comes up. Growth hormone comes up to preserve muscle mass. Our body begins decreasing our cortisol level, because cortisol is a stress hormone. And as you do this more and more and more, the cortisol level understands now, oh yeah, okay, we're fasting. I don't have to do anything. We're good. I'm not stressed. I'm safe. Remember, stress indicates insecurity. But when the body understands, when your metabolism is easily able to switch, the cortisol calms, because the body says, oh yeah, this is not a stress. This is safety. I'm okay. So all of this is being coordinated as the body continues to do what it needs to do to be successful. Okay? And so when we talk about fasting, once again, we talk about how do we prepare for the fast, how do we get through the fast successfully and what's going on in the body, and then how do we break the fast. So breaking the fast, y'all, very important. So a couple quick tips that I want to give you here before you get to see, and I'm going to bring up here in just a minute, what I'm eating for the first time, y'all. Okay? So number one, you want to make sure that you are monitoring. I cannot stress enough this concept of monitoring and recording. If you are going to be successful, just like everything else in your life that you ever want to change, if you want it to be successful, if you want it to be sustainable, you want to make sure that you are monitoring. We're monitoring blood sugars, as you see me do. We're monitoring ketones, as you see me do. We're monitoring our weight, our hydration. So you don't have to monitor everything, but you need to have some parameters that you are making sure, okay, how did we do this time? How does that compare to what we did last time? What do we need to tweak so that the next time is better? As we talk about our IDL, our inner design loop, the last component of the inner design loop is adaptation, right? Remember, anchor, align, and adapt. In order for you to adapt, you have to have a record. You have to know where things are, how do they stand, and monitoring is an important part of that. If you don't have a glucose monitor, you can get those relatively inexpensively at your local pharmacy. If you don't have a ketone monitor, you can get those as well. As a matter of fact, you can get a monitor that does both ketones and that does glucose. If you're not wanting to do the finger stick, there are monitors on the market now, and I wear, as you guys know, I wear a Dexcom and a Libre. There are monitors on the market now that you can get without a prescription. And you can monitor that. All you have to do is look at your phone. So monitor, monitor, monitor. The second concept is one that doesn't get a lot of play. And it is this idea of portions. Often, we're not eating the wrong thing. We're eating too much of the right thing. Right? Our portions are humongous. And I put my hand up, yeah, because I know when I go to a restaurant, if I'm paying money, they better give me a good amount of stuff, because I'll get mad. But we've gotten so used to the sizes of portion. As a matter of fact, when we go to a restaurant, for example, or we even open a bag of something, we think that just because the bag is there, it's one portion. No. Sometimes you look at that bag, there are 4 or 5 portions in that bag. So watching our portions. Number 3 is eat slowly. As you are re-entering the eating period, your eating window, don't just gobble everything up. It takes about 20 minutes for the signal to get from your stomach to your brain that you're full. And if you're not careful, you end up eating a lot more because you're eating so quickly. Yeah, so slow down. The food is there. It will be there. And then the 4th thing is to avoid highly processed, highly sugary foods. And this goes back, y'all, to the concept of balanced bites. Because if we have those highly processed, highly sugary foods, we get a spike in our blood sugar. In order to deal with the blood sugar, the body produces insulin. The insulin causes weight gain, causes our appetite to be stimulated, and we are ravenous. And people will say to me, man, I can't fast because after I fast, I am so hungry, I can't stop eating. And I say to them, well, what did you eat? What was your first meal? And they say, oh, I had a bowl of pasta, or I had, a sandwich, or I had and I said to them, that is the issue. Because the thing that you ate stimulated the appetite so much that you could not stop eating, and then fasting gets blamed for that. It's not a fasting issue. It is a breaking the fast issue, if you will. Okay? So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up for you right now. Well, not pull up, but I'm going to hop over, and we get to see what I'm going to eat for the very first time here. And when we're breaking the fast, right, we want to break the fast in the same concept as what we're eating in what we talked about, our eating window. So let's go ahead and pull this up. All right, so let's put this up here. There we go. So here's what we're about to eat. This is what I'm using to break my fast. This is a salad, and as you know, I usually start, if I'm going to eat something, I usually start with a salad. There's some component of a salad in there. The reason for that is that the salad gives me bulk. I just said that it takes about 20 minutes for the signal to get to my brain, or to your brain, that we're full. And if I can get the signal or put something in there so that signal starts right away, then I end up not eating as much. So the salad gives me the bulk. The salad also blunts the absorption of the carbs that come from the food that I'm eating, the fiber that's in there. The salad gives me some hydration. There's minerals and vitamins in the salad. And now let's walk through and let's talk a little bit about the balanced bite. So here's what I have. So here's my salad. And so you'll see right on top, this is some jerk chicken that I was teaching my son to make jerk chicken, and he made that actually last night. So there you go. Okay, so I've got some jerk chicken in there. I've got some lettuce, obviously, that's down under there. I've got some carrots, some red onions. There are some red cabbage pieces in there. There's cheese. There's the dressing that's on here. And I think there's some feta cheese in there as well. Okay, so let's walk through this with the idea of balanced bites. So whole foods. So I'm looking at this, and you'll see, of course, the salad dressing and the cheese, not whole foods. But everything else, whole foods. Whole foods first. So minimize processing. Once again, most of this is non-processed except for the salad dressing. The cheese is processed, both types of cheese. Oh, the other thing I have under here, I have some peanuts. I like peanuts. So there's some peanuts under there. Okay? Minimize processing. No added sugar, right? Nothing here added sugar except for probably the dressing as well. And this dressing is actually a combination of two of my favorites. One of the restaurants here makes an amazing Parmesan dressing and a horseradish dressing. So I usually get that. We've got a container. I mix them up, and I drop a little bit of ranch in there, and that's what I got. Okay? Whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar, lean protein and healthy fat. And so I've got my jerk chicken that's off here. I've got some cheese, right? So that'll give me some fat as well. I've got the nuts that give me protein. Non-starchy and starchy vegetables, and on this plate there aren't any non-starchy vegetables. Now, some people would talk about the carrots, so we're going to give the carrots a pass for now. Okay, we'll leave them in the non-starchy vegetable category. Now notice, this is not that we cannot eat certain things. It's that as we think about it, this is the way that we are putting our meal together. Okay? And then, of course, portion controlled. And this is actually a pretty good size salad. It is, I didn't weigh it. It's probably a little bit more than a portion. But the protein is a portion, the nuts is a portion. Probably the biggest thing that's maybe non-portioned is the lettuce itself. Okay? And then tasty and flavorful. Now I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm anticipating that this is going to be good, y'all. I'm anticipating that we're going to have a good time with this. Okay? So, let's see what else. Let me do one more thing, and then you're going to see me bite into this here. Okay, so let's see. Let's get back to our slides. Here we go. Okay, so we talked about monitoring, portion control, of course, eating, and then avoiding avoiding highly processed and high carb, high sugary foods. So let's go ahead. Let me give you some tips. So considerations when you are ending your fast. Right? Because just like we gave considerations for our preparation, so when you're breaking the fast, you want to choose foods that help you maintain stable blood sugars. That makes obvious sense, right? Because we don't want that fluctuation, because then we get a spike, we get insulin causes the appetite stimulation, and so on and so forth. You want nutritionally dense foods, not calorie dense, but nutrient dense. Because when you do nutrient dense, you get all of the things that we just discussed in terms of balanced bites. You want to focus on low glycemic foods. So those are foods that won't spike the blood sugar as much. And usually we say glycemic index of 50 or less, right, to prevent that. Lean proteins, healthy fats, once again, getting back to balanced bites. And then we want to make sure that we are well hydrated. Okay? And if you follow those general principles, you will see that the fasting, when you're breaking the fast, you don't have as much issues as if you eat other things. All right, so now let's go ahead and I'm going to get some food. All right, you guys ready? All right, and while I do that, I'm going to say hi to some of our community members. Let's do this first. Let me grab here. Okay, let's grab this view, maybe this one. Trying to see which one is the better for you to see the food. Okay. Well, here it is. I got it here, and I'm going to take a bite. You ready? You ready? Okay. And if you are out there and you're breaking the fast, I'd love to hear what you are breaking the fast with. Y'all. The other reason I like salads is I like the textures and the flavors. And so I just got right there some lettuce. I got a piece of the red onions, a little bit of the salad dressing, and just, my tongue is on fire right now with excitement. Okay? Now, let me make a comment to you, and one of our community members was talking about one of our check-ins and how I was enjoying the food. You want to enjoy your food. Tasty and flavorful is one of the principles of balanced bites. I've had food that was considered healthy. And I'm like, oh, really? No. We want tasty and we want flavorful. So you want to enjoy your food. When you enjoy your food, it satisfies. So we're cultivating not just eating stuff. We're cultivating an experience. Now, we don't want food to be the ultimate end all and be all, but we should enjoy it. Enjoy your food. So put it together as you're going through Balanced Bites. On that list, it says tasty and flavorful. And that's deliberate, because we want to make sure that we do that, okay? So we will continue our discussion of fasting as we continue doing and working on our health and working on our blueprints. What are we going to do to be sustainable, to have a sustainable process for our lives? You don't need to have superhuman strength. You need a strategy you can trust. You need a plan you can follow. And you need the support and the determination to keep showing up. Okay? Hang in there. We'll be back. All right. So let's go ahead and here's my food. Here's my food. I'm going to take another bite before I come say hi to you guys. That is so good. All right, let's go ahead and let's say hello to some of our community members. Let's see, I see Gian out there. What's up, Gian? Gian says, hi, doctor. Thank you for coming through and thank you for hanging out with us. Delicious, y'all. And let's see. Gian, we got Kenty. Kenty says, hey, a smiley face. Hi, Kenty from Gian. Gian says, missed you. Kenty says, smiley face and hearts. Yeah, he said, caught the replay of the show. I'm assuming you meant from yesterday. Delicious. John says 9:04, 2 p.m. There, Kenzie says 1 o'clock. And then let's see. What's up, Pam? Pam says, hey. Says hello. Thank you for coming through. Gian says hi, Pam. Says I'm good. Hi, Kenty. I love this. Pam, hi to Pam from Kenty. And Gian saying I missed you. Yes, we did miss you. All right. So there you have it, y'all. Another week down. And I haven't even eaten any jerk chicken yet. Let me do that. This is my son's first time cooking jerk chicken, y'all. Okay. I don't have to cook it anymore. I'm going to pass that on to him. So we smoked it. Well, seasoned it, smoked it. And that is good. Let me come back here. So good. Okay. So, once again, if you are interested in righting your metabolism, improving your health, the Health Action Plan is an amazing way to do that. And in the plan is the idea of fasting. It is the reset for the body. It is the pause that allows your system to begin regulating. Homeostasis is the word that we use in health. It's the idea that the body likes to be in balance, and it's always looking for ways to get back there. And when we allow it to do that, when we give it the right components and the right atmosphere, then the body can do amazing things. And that's what we do here, y'all. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. Education with the shows, with the blogs, with the podcast, helping us to understand how the body works, helping us to understand maybe a different perspective. Maybe there's something that you've heard before that didn't quite make sense. We want to make sense for it, because when it makes sense, you have the ability to take charge of your health. But if you're confused, then you may have the desire, but you're not quite sure. So here's a great place for you to come. You get to ask questions. We love questions, so we can answer those so that we can help you move along the path of success. We educate, we empower with the tools that we're learning, the HEAT model, the COPE model, Balance Bites, right? All of those are tools that allow you to apply the things you learn in our education component. And then we encourage with the community that you are a part of, that you're building. The richness of the community comes from you. The successes that you've had, the successes that you are having, the challenges that you're having. Bring those here, because we want to know, because your question is the same question that somebody else has. Or the answer that you came up with for your question can answer somebody else's question. And you heard me say all the time, the very thing that you go through, the journey that you've been on, the path that you have now blazed, that trail, as rocky, as up and down as it has been, is the answer to somebody else's question. So we educate, we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level, and create the life you've always wanted. That's what we're doing here. And I am so excited I get to hang out with you. I get to walk along this path with you and to learn and to experience my own successes as we move together as a community. We will be back tomorrow night for This Week in Review, for Video from the Vault at 9 p.m. Central. On Sunday morning, we'll have This Week in Review at 6 a.m. Central. And then on Monday, we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode, MD Live, as we continue walking through our pathway, our blueprints, setting the stage for long-term sustainable success. Hey, y'all. I'm in the business of helping you to achieve success in your health, just like you've achieved success in other areas of your life. I want you to be around to show up for those events that are so important for the grandchildren, for the husband, for the wife, for the family, for the daughter. You're going to walk down the aisle, for the son, right? To be able to romp and wrestle on the ground, to teach the kids, teach the grandchildren your hobbies and your ideas, how to paint, how to play music, how to sing, how to fish, whatever it is. And all those things that you've been saving up for so long, that you've put all the time in. This is the time to enjoy them. But you got to be healthy. You got to be around. You don't need to have superhuman strength. What you need is a system you can trust, a plan you can follow, and you need support and determination to keep it going. Thank you for coming through. We'll see you in the community. We'll see you. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you in the space. Here is our move campaign as we make our way out of here. Good night. Have a great weekend. Welcome to Mood, metabolic optimization via exercise. This isn't just about workouts. It's about moving your body, moving your habits, and moving your life forward. Each episode builds consistency, strength, and resilience step by step. I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and together we're writing the story of health, transformation, and limitless living. This is Mood. Let's get started.